Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
All right, let me give you the lay of the land here at the outset, folks. Nothing is going to change. The former FBI director, the admitted coward, James Comey, afraid to be in a room alone with Donald Trump, is giving ammunition to both sides here. He made sure to drop some news on what he thought of Loretta Lynch, trying to get him to change the name of the investigation to a matter. The bottom line, nothing's going to change. He's told the Democrats and the media just enough for them to continue their narrative that Trump's scum and a pig and violated the law. And he has given the Republicans enough ammo to take the position Trump didn't do anything. In other words, nothing is going to change here. When this is all over, nobody in the media is going to say, you know what, we blew it, even though the CNN had to. CNN's gone pathological. Total pathological on this. And they're going to be pathological tomorrow. They're going to be pathological tonight, because nothing today is going to result in the media or the Democrats gulping and saying, gee, we got this wrong. It's not, I mean, the evidence is there that they got it wrong, but the way Comey is explaining it to them as though he is Sigmund Freud, able to read minds, all he has to do is just throw them some crumbs here to keep their narrative going, and that's what he's done. And he's done some of that for the Republicans as well. But given that, I mean, I could, after having said that, I could eliminate all discussion on this today, because there's really nothing more to tell you. But that's not what we're going to do. We're still going to break it down for you, because it is I, El Rushbo, able to read the stitches on the fastball, even now, after all these many years. There are some fascinating revelations that happened today, and it's sad that they're not going to change anything. Let me give you two basic things here that should end this, but they won't. James Comey admitted under oath, and we had it yesterday in the pre-release of his testimony, Donald Trump did not ask him to stop the Russian investigation. Therefore, there is no obstruction of justice. Furthermore, President Trump acknowledged that Comey might have a legitimate investigation of other people who perhaps did collude with the Russians when Trump was talking about the satellites. He means other people. And he acknowledged to Comey that if there's evidence somebody did something, we got to go find it. So he was in no way attempting to stop the investigation. He wasn't trying to shape it. He wasn't trying to misdirect it, redirect it. And Comey admitted so today. The other thing that we have learned that ought to eliminate all of this is that Comey affirmed what was in his pre-release testimony yesterday, that Donald Trump was not a target and never has been a target of the Russian collusion investigation. Trump told the truth, even though Comey says he's a liar. Comey came across as a whining, cowardly guy during some of his testimony here. But he admitted that he'd told Trump 3 times that Trump was not a target of the investigation. Donald Trump was understandably unhappy that Comey would not make this public. Donald Trump believed that if Comey would simply say that Trump is not a target here, that it would free Trump from the distractions and allow him to focus and his regime to focus on the agenda at hand. Comey had also cleared Hillary Clinton. Hillary, when at July 5th press conference, which everybody saw, including Trump, Comey goes out there and lists her crimes and lists her violations of statute, and then says, but there's no intent. We couldn't find that she intended to break the law, and therefore no reasonable prosecutor would proceed. And then he closed the investigation. Now, the Russian investigation has not been closed. Comey said, and this is really thin, Comey said, and he talked about it with colleagues. And it's really strange, too. Some things he did tell colleagues and other things he didn't. Like when Trump asked him alone in the Oval Office. When Trump cleared the room, Comey says he got very frightened. He got very scared. This was unusual. He didn't know what was going to happen. And so after the meeting, he didn't tell anybody what Trump had said, even though he was highly suspicious. Why didn't he resign if it was that bad? Why didn't he tell anybody when he came out of the Oval Office? Why wasn't he happy he got out of there alive and unbruised if he was so afraid of Trump and being alone in a room with him? Comey said that the reason he didn't say publicly that Trump was not a target is because they had to leave room to change their minds. They had to leave open the possibility that Trump would become a target. They didn't want to be in the position of having to correct the record. What a bogus, absolutely bogus reason given for not announcing that the president was not a target. There's another thing we've learned here. It's hard to take one thing here and say it stands above all others in things that surprise and shock me, but this one's pretty close to the top, if not the top. This damn fake phony made up out of thin air Russian dossier. Well, it actually wasn't Russian. It was written by an MI6 British agent. This totally made up series of allegations. The Golden Shower dossier. This is the one where Trump supposedly rented a hotel room in Moscow used by Barack and Michelle Obama. And he hired some prostitutes to come in there and urinate on the bed, i.e. the Golden Shower. We've learned that Comey took that seriously. We have learned prior to today that dunderhead John Brennan, Obama's CIA director, took it seriously, that he thought it formed the basis of a legit investigation. This is the dossier that BuzzFeed published in toto, having to admit nobody could confirm anything in it because none of it was true. BuzzFeed says, but we think you, the American people, need to see this just to see that kind of stuff. That's not why they did it. And so we have two of the preeminent intel and investigative agencies in our country, Comey at the FBI, Brennan at the CIA, acknowledging that a bogus, fake, totally unlegit, illegitimate document formed the basis for all of this that comprises this silly soap opera that we've been subjected to as a nation for the last 9 months. That's got to be at the top of the list of things that boggles the mind the most. I also think this. I think after listening to Comey today, and this has been an experience for me, the guy's admitted that maybe he didn't have enough courage to stand up to Trump. Maybe he was a little scared. The guy runs the freaking FBI. He's the FBI director. At any rate, this entire thing, I think, is rooted in the fact that Donald Trump speaks a foreign language from what is spoken in Washington. Trump shows up in Washington and he speaks the way he speaks. He can be New York tough guy. He can be standard, ordinary, everyday American male. But one thing Trump is not is precise and careful and defensive and politically correct. And everybody in Washington is. Everybody in Washington speaks completely on the defensive. Everybody in Washington has a bit of victimhood in them. And so the way they speak, in many ways, is designed to evoke sympathy. But you don't have a lot of tough talkers in that town. That's why when you encounter one, they stand out so much. So Trump shows up. He invites Comey into the Oval Office, and Comey starts quaking in his boots. What does he want? What does he want? What does he want? Oh, God. Oh, God. And Trump says, gee, I hope you can let this Flynn thing go. Now, what is Comey here? Well, you'll hear in the audio someday, Comey heard all kinds of things that Trump didn't say. That's why Comey said, well, not not with his words, Senator. No, not in his words. Well, what the hell else was going on in there? Are you a mind reader? Look, I'm serious, folks. What? I think they speak different languages, and Comey is admitting he has to try to read minds here to understand what Trump is saying. So you have an admitted coward and somebody who's admittedly afraid to be alone in a room with the guy now trying to tell us what Trump really meant. I don't think, and Donald Trump Jr. has tweeted this, I don't think anybody's ever talked to Donald Trump has ever not understood what the guy means. If there's one guy that hits you between the eyes with what he wants, means, and says, it's Donald J. Trump. There's no beating around the bush with the guy. I'll give you another example of this. When Trump makes the joke about, hey, Russians, maybe you could find Hillary's 30,000 emails, and when you find them, when you hand them to the media, do you realize all of Washington thought that he was urging the Russians to hack Democrat computers? And he was cracking a joke. He was mocking them. He was laughing at them. He was making fun of their hand-wringing, girly now type attitude that a lot of Washington, D.C. men seem to possess. Afraid of everything, afraid of this, of politically correct fear. So Trump says, hey, Russia, maybe you can find the emails. And they have a react. They had no idea. They actually thought he was encouraged. They've lost sense of humor. They don't understand satire and parody. It's hopeless. Comedy on the left has become hate. If American leftist comedians are not saying hateful things, then nobody's going to think they're any good or funny. Marco Rubio. I have been somewhat disappointed in this squishiness of Republican senators in this hearing today. And then I had to catch myself and realize they don't like Trump. They have no brief for Trump. Half of them are running around salivating about President Pence. There are already news stories about that. Of all the Republican senators who could have sat this one out, of all the Republican senators who could have done their best to help Comey undermine Trump, it would have been Marco Rubio, based on the campaign. You know, Trump went after little Marco pretty famously. Marco Rubio, it took him a while to get there, but Marco Rubio, in the last 30 seconds to full minute of his questioning of Comey, did the best of anything I've heard yet come from any Republican on the committee. Richard Burr, the chairman, Mr. Comey, you know what? We're glad you're here. And we appreciate that you've come. And we'll be in our closed session. Said, is this how it's going to be? That's our chairman. Richard Burr from North Carolina. Mr. Comey, did the president ever lie to you? Why does nobody entertain the possibility Comey might be lying? You know, Comey is protected. No matter what Comey says, everybody's just accepting it as gospel. But again, I have to remind you, none of this matters. I mean, even if we have a bunch of leftists listening today, anything I've said here is not going to change their mind, just going to make them hate me more. The narrative isn't going to change. You know what? CNN, look at their graphic. Trump administration lied about me and FBI. Comey, that, by the way, is one of the first things Comey said. His feelings were hurt. I'm feeling really hurt. The president lied about me. He lied about the FBI. And I just want to say, you agents of the FBI, I have never been honored more. And I have never been happier. And I have never been more proud to work with a great bunch of people like you. And it really hurt my feelings when the president lied about me and lied about you. Save me. What is this? Boys Nation? What are we, a bunch of 16-year-olds here? Anyway, CNN's been running that graphic. That's the big news to them, that Comey said that Trump administration lied about me and the FBI. So that's what I mean. CNN, as far as they're concerned, no need to change anything here because Comey admitted that Trump lied. Period. Doesn't matter about what. So we have audio sound bites. We're going to do this, folks. Understand this, but I'm just telling you that Trump has been fully exonerated of everything you think, based on the media, he did. He has been fully exonerated, and damn it, it's not going to change anything. Marco Rubio made another great point as he was wrapping up his question and answer period with James Comey. He said to the former FBI director, he says, it seems like everything from your office leaked except the fact that the president was not under investigation. Now stop, isn't that not dead on? Everything and whatever has been made up has been leaked about this investigation. Every damn aspect of it, except that the president was never a target. Of all the things, that never leaked. What does that tell you? That tells you that all of these leaks were studied, they were tactical, they were strategic, they were timed, and they were intended and purposeful. Because the one leaked bit of information that would have thrown all of this upside down, president's not a target. Imagine if that had leaked back in December, back in November. Where would we be today if that had leaked? You know, the Flynn investigation, you know what this is about? This is going to make you even angrier. They don't have any evidence on Flynn. They're going after Flynn for lying to prosecute. They're going after Flynn on a process charge. That's what they're trying to set up. Now, it's a felony to lie to investigators. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to exonerate Flynn. My point is, since late last year, they have been trying, the Washington establishment, the media, have been attempting to get you and me and everybody to believe that Michael Flynn sold out this country. That Michael Flynn was talking to the Russians about things he shouldn't have been saying and doing. And he was making promises to the Russians that he shouldn't have been promising. And it was all in furtherance of the fact that Trump and the Russians were, in fact, colluding, and Flynn was one of the agents of that. That's what they want you to believe. They don't have any evidence of any of that, even after unmasking Flynn with all of these phone calls that he was discovered to be on with wiretaps of the Russian ambassador. They have no hard evidence of actual behavioral criminal conduct by Michael Flynn. They're still in pursuit of what is called a process crime. Same thing that sent Martha Stewart to jail. I'll tell you one other thing as you continue to watch this. You will note that during the question and answer period with all these senators, occasionally a question will be asked, and Comey will say, Senator, I can't address that in open session. Senator, I must reserve that for our closed session later today. I've seen every instance of that this morning, and I'm going to tell you what I think. I think those answers provide further exoneration of Trump and his people. And that is why Comey does not want to provide those answers in public. Because the answers to those questions, and mostly they're coming from Democrats, some Republicans, but mostly they are questions to which the answers are helpful to Trump. So when Comey says, I'm sorry, Senator, I really can't address that in open session, I want you to think that that's probably the reason why. We will continue right after this. Welcome back. Rush Limbaugh having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have here at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Anti-Leftist Studies. 800-282-2882. And we're going to start on the phones. I want to get started early here, melding your thoughts as we go through this. And again, I'm just going to keep repeating this. The bottom line, James Comey said that Donald Trump did not ask him to stop the Russian investigation. James Comey said that Trump told the truth, that 3 times Comey told him that Trump was not part of the investigation. No obstruction of justice and no attempt by Trump to shape this investigation one way or the other. There is no reason why we are even here. No legal reason. Everything that you have imagined, everything you've been led to believe, everything you've supposed about this is not true. Trump was never the target. Therefore, Trump never was thought to be personally colluding with the Russians. Did not happen. Comey would not make this public for obvious reasons. Comey also said Trump did not ask him to stop the Russian investigation. Comey also admitted that he said the president hoped he would let the Flynn thing go. Now, only in Washington, where a bunch of girly boys happen to rule the roost, would somebody saying, I hope you let this go, be a demand. What kind of wimp must you be to be talking to somebody, I hope you let this go? What? Oh, no! He's threatening me! Oh, no! No, he said, I hope you let this go, man. You know, there's really nothing. I just hope you can see it. Where else but in this town could somebody saying, I hope you let this go, be considered a threat? Now, to the phones, we start with Joe in Calabasas, California. Great to have you on the EIB network. How are you doing?
Hey, very well. Mega unemployment dittos out here in California. Hey, Rush, you brought something up before, and Chairman Burr today asked Comey a very important question about whether they have access to the hardware that was hacked. And Comey said, no, but we got relevant forensic information from a third-party class act. So how could there possibly have been any investigation of Trump without the computer? The FBI has buildings, offices full of computer forensic experts, and yet the DNC said, sorry, you can't look at our computers. Oh, no problem. We'll just take the word of your Geek Squad employees.
Well, yeah,
right?
Here, let me give you are very, very sharp to pick up on that out there, Joe. Here is what actually happened. No, this is what we're told happened. I don't know who to believe in all of this anymore. I think it's very sad that there's not a single. I doubt everything that comes out of this town, particularly if the media is the filter. But here's what we have been told: that the Russians were hacking anything and everything they get their hands on. The Russians were hacking here, hacking there. That's all they did. They hacked. Comey just gave a very, very touching speech, folks. That made me cry. And Comey said, you know what? We're all Americans. I hope we all love America equally. You idiot. Half this country hates it. The side you're helping hates this country, Mr. Comey, as founded. I hope we all come together, because one thing we got to realize, Russians aren't going to stop. The Russians are going to keep coming, and it doesn't matter whether we're Republicans or Democrats. The Russians are going to keep coming for us, and I hope we can... Gee whiz, what are we doing here today? The Russians are going to keep coming. Some senator asked Comey, do you think Putin's a Republican or Democrat? And before Comey could answer, the senator said, I don't think he's either one. Really? How brilliant! I think it was one of ours, too. It was one of our senators. Anyway, I keep sidetracking myself because my mind's on fire today, folks. I mean, this stuff. Anyway, what we're told is that the Russians tried to hack the DNC network and the RNC network. They were unable, we are told, to penetrate the Republican National Committee computer network, but they were able to penetrate the DNC. When it was learned that somebody had hacked the DNC computers, Comey's boys from the FBI showed up and asked to see and investigate and inspect the servers. And Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz told them to go pound sand. We're not letting you look at our servers. We've been breaking the law left and right. We got a scheme going here to deny Bernie Sanders a nomination. We've rigged this for Hillary Clinton. I'll be damned if we're going to let you and the FBI in here to find it. The Comey said, oh, okay. And the FBI slinks away. I mean, Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz does scare me, too. You'd imagine being married to that. Anyway, So the DNC turned, this is what Joe said, they turned to a third-party forensic unit, an outfit called Crowdsource. Now, Crowdsource is a domestic computer forensics firm, private sector. Sturdley, you've heard me say this before. You may have missed it because you're screening calls. The founder of Crowdsource, no, we're not Crowdsource. What it's Crowd something. And anyway, the founder of this outfit is Ukrainian. Hates Putin. I'm pretty sure maybe it's Strike Force. No, it's not Strike Force. Crowd something or other. At any rate, the founder of this outfit despises Vladimir. It's CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike was the one that the Democrats hired because they knew that CrowdStrike would not reveal that they had rigged the game against Crazy Bernie. CrowdStrike then reported to Comey and his boys what they found. And what Joe here is saying is that, well, that's great. The FBI's got all these forensics investigators, and they've got these massive hackers themselves, and they've got massive tools, and the DNC and Debbie Blabbermouth told them to pound sand. CrowdStrike comes in there, and the FBI just accepted what CrowdStrike said. Just accepted it. And, of course, nothing to see here. What they were looking for was evidence that the Trump team had hacked in, but Trump didn't have anybody who knew how to do this. Founder's actually Russian, but he's worked with the Ukrainians. He's got a bug up an orifice about Putin. And so Burr was onto something here. We don't know if Burr knew that he was onto something. But what Burr had said was, Mr. Comey, FBI, you never had access to DNC servers, third-party. That's right, Senator. The third party was never mentioned. I just passed on as CrowdStrike. This is not something that's unknown. It's been out there. What's newsworthy about it is that Comey and his boys called them a high-class operation, even though the gang at CrowdStrike recently was caught lying about a Russian hack of the Ukraine military. CrowdStrike had been... They hate Putin at this outfit, at least the founder does. So he'd been doing his own forensic hacking. But anyway, it all turned out to be a lie. There was no hacking by the Russians or the DNC. That's the bottom line. There was no hacking by the Russians. Now, the DNC to this day wants you to think it's the Russians that got them. But there hasn't been any proven Russian hacking of anything. Folks, there's no evidence for any underlying information that is providing the fuel for this ridiculous, silly soap opera. Let me take a brief time out. We'll continue. You got audio sound bites coming up, back up all of this. We'll keep checking in with the phones, too, so don't go away. We'll be right. All right, stand by audio soundbite number 1. We're going to head back to the phones here. Payson, Illinois. Alex, it's great to have you with us, sir. How are you doing today?
Oh, great, Rush. I'm watching this guy. He reminds me of a millennial. I've never seen any 6'8", 56-year-old man act like this. He's whiny. He uses millennial-like phrases like, I was stunned, it got awkward, I was uncomfortable, I don't want to be in a room alone with him.
Did he ever use the word sustain or sustainability? It's a favorite. You use that word to a millennial and you own them. You're talking about energy, you're talking about nuclear power, whatever. Sustainable, and you own them in your back pocket. He used that word at any time. I didn't hear it.
I don't think he did, Rush, but I think if you go back tonight and read his transcript.
I have no desire to relive this. But make your point.
Torture.
Make your point.
But my point is this: is if you read it blindly, like you didn't know it was James Comey, you could convince yourself that this is a 23-year-old female grad student, who needs a safe space. I mean, I think his nickname should be James Safe Space Comey. He is the oldest millennial I've ever seen.
Well, what did he specifically say, or how did he specifically say what that has caused this very pointed reaction in you?
He used a phrase that I think, it's uncomfortable. I mean, I hear that in the professional world. If you say something and somebody's a little bit offended, it's like, oh, I'm getting uncomfortable. I mean, that is such a wimpy, weaselly, wasteful word to even use. But he used uncomfortable. He was stunned. I don't want to be in a room alone with him.
Sessions, don't leave me in a room alone with him. Oh, my God, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? It's Donald Trump. Don't leave me in a room. Oh, no. And then don't forget the story where he's trying to hide in the curtains in the Blue Room. Remember that? The guy's 6'8", towering over everybody, and he's trying to hide in the curtains so Trump doesn't see him. Alex, I appreciate the call. There's one thing about this. I'm trying to look at this with as much jocularity as I can. But look, folks, I'm like you. All of this irritates the hell out of me because it's phony. We're living literally a soap opera, script of which is being put together daily by elements of the media, the Washington establishment, and it's built on nothing. It literally is built on nothing. Trump was never a target. Trump never tried to get Comey to shut anything down. And the basis for all this is that fake, phony Russian dossier. Now, I want to take you back because I think Comey is easily duped if we are to take him at his word here. Comey said he believes the Russians hacked the DNC without evidence. But he also said he believed that dossier. And as we reported last week that the dossier, well, we've been telling you forever the dossier is fake and phony, and that it was created actually by the Russians using MI6. It's a convoluted tale. But the Washington Post had a story on May 24th how a dubious Russian document influenced the FBI's handling of the Clinton probe. Secret document that officials say played a key role in then FBI Director Comey's handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation has long been viewed within the FBI as unreliable and possibly a fake. It's the same thing with the dossier. I mean, the Golden Showers dossier, that has formed the basis of this. I find it hard to believe, by the way, that all these people really believe that. I think they've been looking for any excuse they can to investigate Trump and to get this narrative going and keep it going. That dossier was out there. It's been out there for months, and I think somebody decided to pull the trigger and use it, knowing full well it was bogus, because it's never been about truth. The objective here has never been about truth. Everything in the world leaked here except that Trump was not a target. And here we have, let's go to the audio sound bites. Here's Comey in his own words admitting that he was insulted when Trump said the FBI was in disarray.
Although the law required no reason at all to fire an FBI director, the administration then chose to defame me and, more importantly, the FBI by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader. Those were lies, plain and simple. And I am so sorry that the FBI workforce had to hear them. Oh. And I'm so sorry that the American people were told them.
Oh, I'm sorry that my colleagues had to hear criticism. It's so unfair. By the way, it's clear, another thing here in this, that Comey really believes the FBI and the director are independent in the executive branch, and nobody can touch them, that there's nobody over them. And that is a fatal misunderstanding. He's not independent, and the FBI is not independent. It reports, and he reports to the president. And yet all of these meetings, Comey's acting like Trump's got no business having a meeting with him. He's got no business having me alone in a room. He's got no business. He's got every right in the world. He is Comey's boss. Now, all this stuff about FBI being defamed, folks, I know former FBI executives. And I know former FBI agents, a lot of them. And I am here to tell you that they are not at all on the same page with any of this that Comey is on. There are many of them that are disturbed greatly over how Comey has obviously politicized this. That July 5th press conference that he did last year, which was to exonerate Hillary, I can't tell you the number of serious legal minds, number one, lawyers, jurists, and FBI agents who cannot believe that that happened. That never happens. That's the epitome of unprofessionalism, what Comey did in July 5th, exonerating Hillary after listing all her charges. That's never, ever done. And another thing here that struck me. I'm sorry, these things, I say them as they occur to me. There's much going on here. I listen to these Democrat senators as their prelude to questioning Comey, and it's man love, folks. I mean, it is man love. They want to get out of their chairs. They want to go over there. They want to hug the guy. And I'm thinking it was just 5 months ago they hated this guy and wanted him dead. It was just 5 months ago Comey was the reason Hillary lost. They hated the guy. And now they want to give him a comforting hug and make sure he lands on his feet in the private sector. All right, let me tell you what I just heard. Jeffrey Toobin, CNN. Now we know Trump is under investigation. No, we don't. Jim Sciutto. I'm hearing now that the dossier has not been totally discredited. Jim Sciutto said, the reason Comey didn't pass on details to the investigators is that he didn't want to hamper the investigation. That's what? They're lying openly again on CNN right now. Hi, welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh, serving humanity here behind the golden EIB microphone. 800-282-2882, America's real anchorman, now more than ever. L. Rushbo. Here we are at 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. I see where Senator Cruz is echoing things I said here in the first hour. Folks, do not get caught up in all this because it isn't going to change anything. It's fun to go through it, dissect it, and pick it apart, but don't think any of this is going to change anything. Comey's out there giving red meat to all sides. In the process, though, this guy's doing some amazing things. He's admitting that he's a coward. He admitted that he let Loretta Lynch shape the language used in describing the Hillary investigation. He has admitted that she pressured him to do that and that he fell for her pressure. He has admitted to orchestrating a memo leak. You know, the famous memos that Comey was said to have. We first heard about Comey's memos. We were told that Comey had, as a general practice throughout all of his years as a warrior, that after big meetings, he would memorialize what had happened, who had said what, as an exercise in remembering what was said or in preserving the record should there be disputes. And we were told that he'd been doing this for quite a while, which led me to ask publicly here, man, I'd like to see some of the memos he wrote after conversations with Obama. Well, then we learned that he never had but 2 conversations with Obama, and really only one. The second one was an Obama call to say goodbye after he was leaving office, and the other time it was talk about, I forget, whatever it was. But I'm sitting here thinking, is this, we're supposed to believe, with Obama over in the White House, and Eric Holder here as Attorney General, then Loretta Lynch, that Comey never was aware what Obama wanted? It's kind of like Lois Lerner. Everybody was saying they hope they find the smoking gun memo that directed her to discriminate against Tea Party groups, the IRS. You're never going to find that because one's not needed. Obama hires like-minded people who know what to do without having to be told. And I think Comey is shaping up to be one of these people. Anyway, we later learned that Comey only started writing memos after he met Trump, because he thought Trump was a liar. And he thought Trump was a mean person because Trump was lying about him and lying about the FBI. And so what did our brave young FBI director do? Well, he called a buddy of his at the Columbia School of Journalism, Columbia University, and asked him to share his memos. This is not sharing anything. This is leak. Comey leaked his own memos through a third party, and they ended up as news stories. And he's a leaker. He admitted that he leaked documents that were his and in his possession, and he wanted them out there. And do you know why he leaked them? He admitted that. Because he wanted a special counsel named. He wanted an independent prosecutor. He wanted somebody to take over once he had been fired. He wanted somebody to look into this. Now, when I say don't get all hot to trot about it, I know you're going to pay attention to it. But my only point is don't get caught up in it to the point that you expect it's going to change things, because it isn't. None of this is going to change because none of this is even possible to change the media's mind. There is nothing. In fact, if Comey would have come out and said today that CNN, you are totally off base on this and you're misreporting what's happened here, and the president was never they would not have stopped. During the break, right before the conclusion the previous hour, I did something I seldom do. I actually turned on the audio here during a break. I was listening to CNN, and they had a roundtable discussion. Comey's testimony had just ended, so they go into closed session. Yeah, closed session, where the real juicy stuff can be thrown out there for Richard Burr to slurp up and whatever else. And I'm watching Toobin, Jeffrey Toobin, the supreme legal analyst at CNN. And he's acknowledging that it was true that Comey had said that Trump was not a target 3 different times. But now he is. Today, we know that there is a criminal investigation of Trump. And what? What criminal investigation of Trump? Are you aware of any new investigation of Trump that's criminal? Seriously now. Have I missed something? Well, he said it. He said, yep, Trump was not a target, but we know today, right, in June of 2017, that there is an investigation of Trump. And then they went to this Jim Sciutto guy, who I think Trump personally called out as fake news once at a news conference. And this guy, yep, that's right, Jeffrey, that's absolutely right. And the investigation, they identified it. They said the criminal investigation of Trump is his comment to Comey, I hope you can let the Flynn thing go. CNN now says that comment from Trump has opened a personal new investigation of Trump. I didn't hear Comey say that, but I do know this. When Comey was asked, after Trump said all this, why didn't you resign? I mean, if there's such a great affront. If Trump's saying, gee, I hope you can find a way to let this Flynn thing go, he's a good guy. And Comey said, yeah, he's a good guy. Why did you quit? And why didn't you report this to the Attorney General? Why didn't you go out and immediately tell your colleagues at the FBI? Comey said, I guess I just wasn't courageous enough. And then he said, I didn't want to taint the investigation. How in the world can the FBI director taint the investigation by announcing new information? Bottom line, I don't believe that this investigation of Trump is about the Flynn comment. They're just lying through their teeth about it. And then Jim Sciutto went on and said, Anderson Cooper hosting, Anderson, this famous dossier, the Golden Showers dossier that everybody says there's nothing to, I'm told that there might be something to it, Anderson. And I'm told you heard Comey wouldn't answer about this in open session. And I'm told that there may be, that this is not discredited fully, that it's not fully off the table, that there might, in fact, it is fully discredited. It was made up. It was admittedly manufactured like a novel. It is total fiction. This Golden Showers memo. But there's CNN now claiming that Trump is under investigation as of today, despite Comey saying that he was not a target 3 different times. And that dossier, that's still active. There may, in fact, be something there. This is why I don't want you to get caught up in this stuff, because you're just going to get frustrated. You're just dealing with people who have... CNN's gone total pathological now. CNN is clinically, psychologically off-kilter. That something's happened over there, and everybody working there is lost. And I mean this in the greatest sincerity. They have been so overtaken by whatever it is, the hate that governs them. Hate is a poison. The longer you hate and the longer you hold on to it and don't let it go, the more poisonous and destructive it becomes. And these people have forfeited all presence in reality. They're off on a dangerous, pathological trail now, openly, wantonly lying about Trump being under investigation and his memo. Now, there's something to it. I've got sources that say that this is something. I need to really dig even further into this. So let's go to the audio soundbites. And this is last night, CNN's Anderson Cooper 360. First up, a soundbite with law professor Alan Dershowitz. And Cooper said, Professor Dershowitz, you say this actually strengthens Trump's position against Comey. They're talking about the release, the pre-release Comey testimony came out yesterday. CNN was on hour 6 or 7 of Comey's testimony is going to see to it that Trump is impeached. We've got him. And after 6 or 7 hours of this yesterday and last night, Dershowitz showed up. And Cooper said, Professor, you say that Comey's testimony actually strengthens Trump's position against Comey. How so?
He could have said to Comey, stop this investigation. I am now pardoning Flynn. That's what President Bush did. In the beginning of the investigation of Casper Weinberger, which could have led back to the White House to the first President Bush on the eve of the trial pardoned Casper Weinberger, pardoned 6 people, and Special Counsel Walsh said this is outrageous. He's stopping the investigation. Nobody talked about obstruction of justice. You cannot have obstruction of justice when the president exercises his constitutional authority to pardon, his constitutional authority to fire the director of the FBI, or his constitutional authority to tell the director of the FBI who to prosecute, who not to prosecute. So let's get out of the weeds.
Dershowitz is frustrated. I think he used to appreciate going on CNN, but I'm convinced. I don't want to put words in the professor's mouth, but he has to be bothered watching this network, especially if he's lined up as a guest, because he's hearing things from these people that are asinine. And that's why he says something so simple. Nobody talked about obstructing justice because the president cannot obstruct justice when he behaves constitutionally and pardons somebody. There is no obstruction. The president has the constitutional power to pardon. And if he does it, he's not obstructing justice. And CNN wouldn't let it go. CNN keeps obstructing justice when he hasn't even done anything. And the next thing that Dershowitz said, he can fire the director of the FBI. It is his constitutional authority to tell the FBI director who to prosecute. In other words, Dershowitz was saying if Trump had actually told Comey to drop it on Flynn, he could have. There's no crime. The president is the executive branch. The president runs it. The FBI director works for the executive branch, therefore the president. If the president wanted to tell Comey to drop the Flynn thing, he could have and been constitutionally in bounds, but he didn't. So Dershowitz is watching CNN manufacture things out of clean air, thin air, that have no relationship to the Constitution. That's why he finishes. You got to get out of the weeds here, you people. You're making fools of yourselves. So up next to prove it was Jeffrey Toobin. Cooper said, Jeffrey, what's your take on Professor Dershowitz's recent argument here?
I could not think Alan is more wrong. And the simple response is Watergate. I mean, under Alan's theory, and let me finish. Under your theory, the president, since the FBI works for the president, he can tell them to do anything they want. Well, in Watergate, the President Nixon and they conspired, they made an agreement to stop the FBI investigation of Watergate. Was that a constitutional authority? No, it was a crime. Several people went to jail, and the House Judiciary Committee voted to impeach President Nixon over it. So, yes, he could have pardoned him, but he cannot obstruct justice.
All right, so Putin thinks that he's just destroyed Dershowitz. Dershowitz sat there patiently, waiting for Toobin to make his point. He says that Nixon made an agreement to stop the FBI investigation of Watergate. That's not... These guys have been so consumed with their hatred, they don't even remember what Watergate's about. I mean, in fact, I defy 9 out of 10 people today to tell you what Watergate was. Well, yeah, that's when Nixon was impeached, man. I remember... No, Nixon wasn't impeached. Well, it was acquitted. That's right. But why? 9 out of 10 people cannot tell you, including those that work at CNN. So here's Dershowitz picking up after Toobin says that the Watergate affair set the precedent for the president being impeached for obstruction of justice, for exercising his authority.
Impeachment is political. There is no judicial review of impeachment. You can impeach a president for jaywalking, and nobody can review that. I'm talking about, was there an obstruction of justice? He didn't commit an obstruction of justice. Now, you, Congress, you can impeach him if you don't like what he did, if you think it's obstruction-ish, or it would be an obstruction if he wasn't the president, but you cannot say it's a crime. It's simply not a crime for the president to exercise his constitutional authority to pardon, to direct the FBI. It wasn't a crime when Thomas Jefferson directed the Attorney General what to do. It wasn't a crime when Lincoln did it.
And it's not a crime if Trump did it, which he didn't even do. Once again, Comey thinks Trump did because Comey doesn't understand real guy language. Comey is a person of Washington. Trump is not. Trump speaks a different way, uses different words, different intonations, different dialects. He doesn't speak Washingtonese. I hope you can let this thing go, man. He's a good guy. You can let it go. And there's nothing here. I mean, the guy is... Comey, oh my God, he's trying to interfere. He's trying to tell me to do my job. Oh my God, I'm so scared the president's trying to interfere with me. Meanwhile, Obama is out investigating, getting involved in things in genuine ways that nobody seemed concerned about. Anyway, I don't want to get too far out of the mainstream focus. The point is that Dershowitz, once again, explains to all these people at CNN how they are way off the reservation here, that they don't know what they are talking about. Best evidence of it is these judges at the Fourth Circuit. These appellate judges, these are supposed to be the best judges in the country. The appeals court judges, by historical reference, are the best of the bunch. They're supposed to be. And these guys even said, well, the Trump travel ban, we're going to call it unconstitutional because of what Trump said on the campaign trail. But it's not an executive. Well, it may not be, but he said during the campaign trail he wants to ban all Muslims. Therefore, he's in violation of the Constitution's religion clause. And so we're going to strike it down. It's asinine. And now you've got these guys on CNN basically saying that the president exercising constitutional authority is committing crimes. And Dershowitz, he ends up every appearance on CNN with less hair. I have noticed this. I think it's taking a toll on it. Back to the phones we go, people patiently waiting. This is Renee somewhere in Florida. Great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful, and you? I hope you're having a delightful day and a very blessed one.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you made it through here.
Yeah, so, just from a perspective of a listener who's on the call for about an hour, you've actually covered almost all of my points. So I don't have much more to add, but I'd just like to underscore some things.
Okay, sure.
So, what I was doing as I was watching Mr. Comey, and I guess you called it a hearing, but he said that he learned on the television that the president had fired him because of the Russia investigation, and that he had heard sources telling him that he had relieved a great pressure on the president, and that he then stated publicly that he was fired. He said the president stated publicly that he was fired due to decisions he made during the election. And just on that point alone, certainly the president didn't say he fired him because of the Russian thing. He was talking about Hillary's emails, right? Okay, so...
Yeah, well, we don't really know. You know what I think? I think as it boils down here, if you could isolate one thing, I will bet you that Trump fired Comey because he wouldn't publicly announce that he was not a target 3 different times.
And that came out today, too. He actually kind of admitted that. But it also, as you said in your statement, we have words like that the administration chose to defame me, that they were lies, and that he might lie about me. He went on and repeatedly said, effectively, that it was a matter of the circumstances, the subject matter, the particular person. So he's talking about that he implied that he would lie, but it's almost like a bunch of direct and subliminal things, because he's talking about perhaps he's crazy, perhaps he's a Michael Corleone, that kind of thing. Is just, and he went on to say, that he took what president said as a direction.
Right. Oh, that's a beaut. That's a beaut. Trump says what he says, and then Comey has to psychoanalyze it because nobody says what they really mean in Washington, Yeah. Okay, get soundbite 2 and 3 ready to go. That's actually where I wanted to start when I started with 1. Welcome back, America's real anchorman, now more than ever. El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone. You know, I need to get something off my chest here that I should have made a point of a long time ago. I just don't know why I didn't. The time to make the point never happened because I was distracted by other things. I'm watching Mark Meadows be interviewed here by Wolf Blitzer. I'm reminding myself why I've turned off cable news, by the way. I'm sitting here I've just watched 3 minutes of this stuff and I'm ready to blow up. I'm literally ready to blow up. Wolf Blitzer. Well, Mr. Meadows, Meadows is a conservative member of Congress. Well, you have to admit that Comey said that Trump and his affiliates lied 5 times. And Mr. Meadows, the one thing that Comey said that really struck home with me said that the president never once even seemed concerned about this Russian collusion. And Meadows said, there wasn't any collusion, Wolf. We haven't proven it. Oh, well, that's still an open case. The special counsel's got his work cut out for him. But the point is, Congressman Meadows, the president doesn't even seem to care about this collusion. I haven't seen a shred of evidence. We've heard now, since Hillary lost this election, there's been all this talk about Russians tampering with the election, the Russians hacking the election, the Russians possibly colluding with Trump and others. Has anybody, and I've just missed it, has anybody presented evidence that you can see, that you can touch, that the Russians have successfully interfered with American elections? I haven't either. And it has quickly become an accepted fact of life now that our elections are soured, that our elections are forever more untrustworthy because the Russians involve themselves. What the people behind this are doing is systematically destroying the very integrity and fabric of our country. I have yet to see how the Russians did it. I have yet to see a shred of Russian hacking. I have not had anybody show me. All we've had so far is supposedly a Russian agent or two hacking the DNC, and this outfit, CrowdStrike, does the forensics exam and tells us. But I guess what I'm getting at is that it's just accepted now by people in the media and who knows who else that the Russians are hacking everything. The Russians have found their way into our electoral process. We need to investigate to find out where. And furthermore, we need to investigate to find out with who. And then furthermore, we need to investigate to find out who they are trying to help. And I suddenly realized nobody has presented to me a scintilla of evidence of any of this. We're just accepting the fact that we have computers, the Russians are our enemy, and therefore the Russians are trying to hack into our computers, which there's no question of that. We do the same. The Chi-Coms do the same and vice versa. But this is more specific. It hit me listening to Wolf Blitzer. It's obvious that Wolf Blitzer believes that this election was tainted and it's false and it's phony because the Russians determined the outcome. And it's obvious. Who knows how many other millions of Americans believe this who watch the media? You couldn't blame them if that's their source. And how easily this has been spread, how easily this has been accepted. And I know for a fact that if Hillary Clinton had won the election, we wouldn't be talking about this. It would have never been brought up. There wouldn't be a syllable of discussion about Russia tampering or hacking with our election. Nobody has even had to produce any evidence of it. And let me tell you what I mean by evidence. Show me the computer system that has been hacked. Show me the Russian fingerprints and show me what that computer does. And show me what the Russians made it do. And show me how that is different from what it would have happened if the Russians hadn't been into that computer. Nobody has shown me that. Have you seen anything like that anywhere? Have you seen? There's not a single news story anywhere that details what the Russians did and where they did it, what computer they hacked, what behavior they altered, what outcome they succeeded in changing. Nobody's been able to tell us what would have happened if the Russians had not gotten into said computer or network or campaign or anything. The Russians are now presented as this Sauron-like, all-powerful citadel that can simply penetrate anything and anybody they want at any time. And we have no way to stop them. Everybody talking about this, be they Republican or Democrat, never says, yeah, the Russians are trying, but they haven't gotten in yet. We are better than they are. We're able to block them. We have firewalls and security systems that they can't penetrate. Yeah, they kept trying, but we keep rejecting them. Nobody's saying that. Everybody's acting like the Russians can get in any system they want, and once there, can start altering and changing anything they want anytime. And furthermore, that they do. And I just don't believe it, folks. I just don't believe it. I think we are being lied to on a scale that dwarfs anything previously that we've been exposed to. This is one of the biggest, this is close to climate change in terms of the level and coordination of hype and hoax. It has all the ingredients. And the primary one is fear and helplessness. The Russians are hacking, and there's nothing we can do. Why, not even the vaunted Clinton machine could stop them. And furthermore, not only is it that bad, it might well be that the Trump people help them. And yet there isn't a shred, there's not a morsel, there is no evidence. And yet everybody, in every story, our side, their side, whenever somebody does a story about this, there's always a caveat. And the caveat is, now we all acknowledge the Russians are hacking. We all understand the Russians are attempting. Why do we all understand this? Why do we all automatically acknowledge that the Russians are doing this when nobody has any evidence of it? There have been so many allegations now, complete with no denials, that it would be easy for everybody to assume the Russians are everywhere. And yet nobody has shown us where they are. Nobody has shown us how they got in. I mean, if the Russians are hacking, we clearly know how. If the Russians have infiltrated our systems, we have to know that in order to know that, don't we? So how do we know it? How do we know the Russians are there? Somebody tell me. I want to know. I want to know where. I want to know whose computer. I want to know whose network. I want to know the agents. I want to know how they did it. I want to know how you found out about it. I want to know what you know about what it. Are the Russians still in this network? Or however many, are they still there? Everybody, be it a cable TV news host, when the subject comes up, they always have to say, they always have to acknowledge, yes, the Russians are engaging in hackery. They're trying to forge their way into our systems. Even people that are defending Trump and the Trump administration and the Trump campaign from all these charges of collusion. There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of Trump collusion. Trump was not a target of the investigation. Comey said it 3 times, and yet everybody talking about this or everybody writing about this nevertheless has to feel compelled to say, yes, the Russians are hacking. Yes, the Russians are deeply ingrained in system invasion. Yes. And yet, it's almost like the old conspiracy of fluoride in the drinking water. The Russians are in our networks. Yeah, and the Russians are putting fluoride in the water. You know what that does? No, I don't even remember what the fluoride conspiracy was. All I know is When I went to Sacramento in '84, a regular caller believed in it, and I got sick and tired of hearing about it. I know people believed it, but it's gotten out of hand here. What's the hack? Don't tell me the Podesta email stuff. Well, WikiLeaks got something. I mean, how do you think WikiLeaks... That's a damn good question, and I frankly don't believe the Russians did that. I happen to believe that was an inside job. I happen to believe somebody at the DNC wasn't crazy about the way they're rigging the game for Crazy Bernie. But that's just me. But you don't have any evidence that the Russians gave the evidence to WikiLeaks. You don't have any evidence the Russians got. We're just assuming it. To the point now that everybody acknowledges, oh yes, the Russians are clearly, and we all must condemn it. It's terrible. Comey today, I hope we all realize we're all American. We may be Republicans and Democrats, but we love America. I hope all of us love America and go, God bless America. I love America. The FBI loves America. And we want to understand the Russians are going to keep hacking no matter what party's in power, Republican or Democrat. I don't care who lies to me and who doesn't. The Russians are going to keep hacking. The hackers are out there and they're Russian and we can't stop them. And we love America. I'm saying this is out of control. I purposely wanted to sound like I'm out of control there because none of this, it's creeping up on us like climate change crept up on us. Anyway, I got to take a break here, folks. And when we come back here, I've got these sound bites. I didn't intend to do this segment. Something Wolf Blitzer said just set me off. So I'm now a segment behind, at least in my intention. So we've got phone calls to get to and these sound bites. So we're going to do as fast as we can, squeeze it all in, be right back. All right, Cookie gave me these two sound bites of CNN, and it ticked me off. The first one's Tubin. Now, this is about, let's see, I think it's either 20 minutes ago or an hour and 20 minutes ago. Yeah, it's an hour. Well, I'm not sure. It's either one of the two. This is Tubin. Remember now, we've learned today that Trump is telling the truth. Comey told him 3 different times he was not a target. He has never been a target of the investigation. One of the reasons is that it's been a counter-intel investigation, not criminal. But Trump has never been a target, and Comey would not leak that. He leaked everything else but that. CNN cannot let that stand. Here comes their legal beagle, Jeffrey Tubin.
In the letter that Trump wrote firing Comey, he said 3 times you told me that I was not under investigation, and that was in May. Well, here we know in June, Donald Trump is under criminal investigation, and that's a big deal, and that's important.
We don't know that. That's just an out-and-out lie. I don't know what else to call this. These people have gone off. They're rockers. This is pathological. It's psychological. Where is Trump under investigation today? How is Trump under criminal investigation? What? Did Comey say something today to make these people think that all of a sudden a criminal investigation Trump has been opened? If that had happened, that's the only headline we'd be seeing up there. Now, here's Jim Sciutto. This is the guy, Trump's called this guy out for fake news to his face at a press conference once. This is the guy that was talking about this, the famous Russian dossier that was total, folks, it was made up. It's a piece of fiction, written fiction on purpose. The person who did it has been identified and admitted it was fiction. It was put together by intelligence people hoping to convince Trump to meet with them every day. Trump had said he didn't need to meet with intel people every day because he's a smart guy, has a good memory, and the intelligence people put this together as an example of the kind of things that could be said out there, and they wanted to prepare Trump for it. None of it was running around Washington for 6 months. Media had it. It was BuzzFeed that finally decided to publish it raw, admitting no evidence, no backup, nothing to it. None of the claims could be substantiated. I want you to listen to how CNN, which has reported that previously, here's Jim Sciutto talking about it a while ago.
On the dossier, the famous dossier, which has been dismissed by Republicans and now that's been discredited. Fact is, and I've been asking folks involved in this investigation for weeks now, It is not completely dismissed. And Comey said today, I can't comment on open session.
Yeah, let me tell folks, it's not been dismissed by just Republicans. It's been dismissed by the Washington Post refused to run it, and the New York Times. It's been dismissed by everybody. It's been dismissed by the Intel. This is the Golden Showers dossier. For this guy to say now that it is alive and well and is part of the foundation, and furthermore, Comey said, I can't answer the question in this open session. I told you how to interpret that. Do not doubt me. At every opportunity where Comey said today, I can't discuss that in open session, I'll guarantee you his answer exonerates Trump. And that's not why he's there today. To say, I can't talk about that in public session, that's designed to create reactions just like we got here from this clown, Jim Sciutto. There's nothing to this dossier. If there were something to the dossier, by the way, along the lines of the Russians are everywhere and the Russians are hacking and we all know it and we all must be vigilant and we all must be ever observant because the Russians are hacking everything. Yeah, show me. Show me where they've hacked. How long is this damn investigation going to go on when there's nothing that's been proven? There's nothing that's even come to light. Who does this investigation every day? What are they doing? Who are the investigators? What are they looking at? Why do we need an independent counsel? There's nothing here. There hasn't been any evidence for anything to date. Investigation's purely political, and it's going to go on throughout 2018 and the midterm elections. What investigation? Where are the gumshoes? Who are the detectives? Where are they? Where are they? Where are the boots on the ground? Where's the rubber hitting the road? Where are these people and what are they looking at? What computer systems? What is this investigation? Who is doing it? What does it consist of? Nothing and nothing and nothing, just like the Russians and the mysterious hacks. Okay, we're going to keep this up, but I'm going to veer off because, folks, real news keeps being made. I mean, life goes on. There is actual reality taking place out there as opposed to this silly soap opera circus. And I got to swerve into some of it. So we're going to do that. Take your phone calls. It's the only place you need to be. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Dow Jones Industrial Average at a new all-time high today. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? It tells you they're not paying any attention to this circus. If they thought the Dow's up 29.71 right now, NASDAQ's up 16.57. If the markets thought there was anything to this and thought that this investigation was going to result in the falling apart of our country and that the Russians are taking over, people would be fleeing the markets in droves. Markets setting an all-time high today. Greetings, welcome back. El Rushbo, America's real anchorman, now more than ever, both in fact and in need. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Now, some of this may be arguable, but I want to make a point here as I swerve into where real life is happening. And by that I mean outside of Washington. I think this circus and this soap opera is beneath us. It is plain and simple what's happening here. And that is the Washington, D.C., and actually the global establishment is attempting to undermine the current president. There is a very loud, silent coup underway. And all of this has an objective, and that is to either paralyze the Trump presidency or to dispatch it. That's all this is. Everything they say, they're worried about Russians tampering with our processes. They don't care. They know that that's not a big deal. They know we can outsmart the Russians, and if we're tampering with them too. It's all amplified beyond any scope of sanity and reason. And all of this concern about tampering with the law and obstruction of justice, all of it is just gigantic clouds of bogus BS. And in truth, it should be beneath us. All this kind of partisanship here should be beneath the dignity. But I'll tell you why it's not. The quest for power, particularly by those on the left, has gotten now to a poisonous level where it is being driven by pure, raw hatred. There's even some self-loathing going on here. Whatever's driving this is not a legitimate fear for our system. Whoever's doing this is not really concerned about the Russians tampering, and they're not really concerned that the Constitution is being violated. They're not really concerned that the highest officials in the land are violating the law. They don't care about any of that. This is simply and purely a quest to usurp power away from someone who legitimately won it by those who legitimately lost it. And that, in a nutshell, is what bothers all of them. They legitimately lost this election. They legitimately and fairly lost what they consider power. It was not stolen from them. It was not hacked. It was not taken or purloined. They lost it. The media lost their power. The Democrats lost the elections, and they can't abide it. By the way, one of the stories in my stack here of other things happening is right in the New York Times. Do you remember the name Thomas B. Edsall, Mr. Snerdley? Thomas B. Edsall used to write for the Washington Post. Now he is, I guess he's a contributing op-ed writer for the New York Times. But what he really is an agent for the Democrat Party. And his last work of great note was in November of 2011, when he wrote a piece, an op-ed piece, explaining that the Democrat Party was abandoning the voting group known as white working-class Americans. And instead, the Democrat Party was going to try to make a governing majority coalition out of all the minority groups in the country they could put together. and white working class voters they were going to toss to the side. And the purpose of Thomas B. Edsel's piece was to make that official. That's why it ran. Well, he's back. And he has a piece in the New York Times today. And you know what it says? The Democrat Party's in worse shape than you thought. There's only one other person talking this way out there, my friends, and it's me. And every time I talk about it, I get a bunch of complaint emails from some of you in the audience. You may think the Democrats are losing elections, but every time I turn on the TV, it still looks like they're running the show. They may be losing, but they still have the... That's why I've told you that it is the media that is running the progressive left and not the Democrat Party. The Democrats have to win elections. The media cannot do it by itself. They need people in elective office because that's where the power is exercised. And it is a problem. The Democrats are losing elections. And they're going to lose in Georgia on January 20th. They're going to lose Georgia 6. I don't care what the prefub is. They're going to lose it. The stories right now, the polling data, it's neck and neck. And they're trying to make you think that this woman, this Republican, could actually lose it. It's the Newt Gingrich. It's the Tom Price seat. The Democrats are not going to win this. Here's how Mr. Edsall begins his piece. Sifting through the wreckage of the 2016 election, Democrat pollsters, strategists, sympathetic academics have reached some unnerving conclusions. What the autopsy reveals is that Democrat losses among working-class voters were not limited to whites. Really, Mr. Edsall? So Edsall, in November of 11, writes a piece acknowledging that the Democrats are throwing away the white working-class voters, and they did. But something went wrong. They lost even more than that group. The autopsy reveals that Democrat losses among working-class voters were not limited to the whites that they cast overboard. Crucial constituencies within the party see its leaders as alien, and that unity over economic populism may not be able to turn back the conservative tide. Let me read that graph again to you. What the autopsy reveals, these think tankers, the Democrat pollsters, strategists, academics, autopsied the Democrat election. And their losses among working class voters were not limited to white working class. Crucial constituencies within the party see the party leaders as alien. Makes total sense. Nancy Pelosi looks like an alien. She looks like the mother of E.T. And you take a look at Crazy Bernie the other day and some of these other Joe Biden plugs. I mean, the Democrats do not have Hillary Clinton, Madam Seizure. I'm telling you, these people are exactly right. They see their leaders as alien. And also, the autopsy reveals that unity over economic populism may not be able to turn back the conservative tide. What that means is that unifying against Trump's brand of America First economics may not turn it aside. There may not be enough people to oppose Trump economic policy. Next paragraph, equally disturbing. Winning back former party loyalists who switched to Trump is going to be tough. These white voters' views on immigration and race are in direct conflict with fundamental Democrat tenets. Some of these postmortem conclusions are based on polling and focus groups conducted by Democrat super PAC Priorities USA. Others are drawn from a collection of 13 essays published by the American Prospect. And a consistent theme is that the focus on white defections from the Democrat Party masks an even more threatening trend, declining turnout among key elements of the so-called rising American electorate, minority, young, and single voters. Turnout among African Americans fell by 7 points. In other words, the Democrats threw white working class voters overboard and a bunch of other people went with them. The Democrats think that the reason they lost is because the white working class, they might have made a mistake in dumping them. But they didn't pick up the difference. The rising American electorate, by the way, that's in caps, the RAE, minority, young, and single voters. We're talking millennials here. The Democrats think they automatically have them. They didn't show up. Story goes on. It prints to 9 pages. That's as much as I'm going to give you right now, but that's a summation. The Democrat Party is in worse shape than you thought. Not worse shape than I thought. I've been trying to tell people how bad a shape it's in. And eventually, it's going to matter. I mean, the media is running that show, but the media doesn't have anybody in elective office. You still have to have people in elective office to stop the opposition. You still have to have people in elective office to advance your own ideas legislatively. They are not winning elections. They have less electoral power today than since the 1920s. It's one of the reasons this insanity, such as the Comey hearings today and this entire blown out of proportion so-called investigation against so-called Russian hacking. This is all they've got. This and things like it is all they've got. Meanwhile, now I admit some of these items may be arguable, but I want to run through the list. In the past 2 years, I'm going back to June of 2015 when Trump and Melania descended the escalator at Trump Tower. In the past 2 years, nothing the media, the Democrats, the Washington establishment, and the never-Trumpers have thrown at Trump has worked. They have thrown everything they've got at Trump, and he is still there. He may not be exhibiting the same humor and charm and, extroverted behavior because he is occupied by all of the assaults, but he's still there. They haven't gotten rid of him, and his agenda is still on the tracks. They have tried everything they can think of to discredit and destroy the Trump presidency. From the escalator speech, through the mowing down of Republican primary opponents, i.e. the Republican press, 15 different candidates. They had Pusai-gate, that's the NBC video, that they thought they had Trump with that. Then the lying and the polling and Russia and Flynn and all of the fake news that they have been reporting. The lies, the distortions, all of the felonious and criminal leaks. Washington Post has minimum 30 embeds in the deep state that are reporting leaked information. And now James Comey has joined the leakers. James Comey leaked his memos he wrote about Trump. He asked a friend of his to disseminate them to the media. Can I ask a question? And maybe I'm off base on this. Maybe some legal beagle can set me straight. Does somebody tell me the difference in what Reality Winner did and what Comey did? Reality Winner had some documents, the NSA, she gave them to a reporter. James Comey had some private memos he wrote about Donald Trump, and he leaked them to the media who made news stories out of them. Both of them leaked. In one case, Reality Winner leaked stuff that wasn't hers. Comey leaked stuff that was his. But they're both leakers. What? Well, the question hinged on whether it's classified. You mean what Reality Winner leaked was classified and Comey's stupid memos may not be classified? Perhaps. Maybe so. But Comey's still a leaker, and he announced it. Despite all this, Trump keeps chugging along. Yes, he may not have the humor he had in the campaign. He may not have the charm he had during the campaign. but he's besieged on all fronts in ways most human beings will never experience or be able to relate to. I challenge you. Try to do this. Try to imagine you're Donald Trump for a day and forget about the fame of it. Forget about living in the White House. Forget about being president. Just imagine every day that everybody outside the White House is gunning for you and half the people working for you are gunning for you. And he's still there. He nominated 11 more just fabulous conservative judges yesterday for federal districts. These 11 judges that he nominated yesterday are Neil Gorsuch quality. They are awesome, and they are crucially important to turning around the fetid direction this country is headed. As reported yesterday, Trump has slashed regulations and prevented the writing of new ones at a level unforeseen in our lifetimes. He is still, despite being opposed by his own party on Capitol Hill, working to try to fix Obamacare. He's working on infrastructure. And by the way, Mr. Snerdley, you have always expressed total confusion over how private sector help with infrastructure would work with government. And I have a story in the stack today. I may not get to it today, but I'm going to get to it if I don't by tomorrow. That explains exactly how this is going to happen. And you're going to applaud it when you hear it. Trump nevertheless working infrastructure. He is still trying to get tax reform despite members of his own party saying they don't have the energy or desire to do it. He's working on Mideast peace. He pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accords. There's not a soul who actually thought he would pull that off and go through with that and have the courage to do it, and he did it. And while all of this is happening, the stock market is soaring, consumer confidence is high, jobs are on the creation. IBD, Investors Business Daily, Trump's approval drops as his spending tax cut plans gain wide support. This is a curiosity, too. Anyway, got to take a break here. We'll be back. I want to squeeze another call in here. Rush Limbaugh, America's Real Anchorman, EIB Network, and Dave in Heron Lake, New what? Where are you?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Welcome, sir. Great to have you.
You know, you had the New Mexico Senator Heinrich asking Comey questions about the Russian collusion and such, and Comey said that Trump had no collusion whatsoever. But he said that he had gotten questions from the former president. Why is it that nobody in the Republican Party is asking him what were the questions that Obama had asked him? Are these Republicans so asleep?
Wait a minute. Are you saying that Comey said that Obama had asked him questions about what?
About the Russians, the interference, and did they have any collusion with the former president?
Well, Obama told us there wasn't any. See, this is part of it. Obama said there wasn't any. Obama said twice. See, I know what you're getting at here, and it's a good point out there, Dave. Obama said in March and December 2016 that it would be impossible for the Russians to hack voting, which is the election, folks. It would be impossible to hack the machines. It'd be impossible to tamper with the casting of ballots and the counting. So there would be no reason for Obama to ask Comey because Obama had already stated it wasn't happening. Obama said he told Putin to, quote, cut it out. And Putin apparently so scared, like Comey gets scared, that he cut it out. And then Comey was trying to go on and say that Trump didn't even seem really interested in the Russian collusion. And so, well, Obama said there wasn't any, for crying out loud. Nobody's shown any evidence anyway. Mark Kasowitz, a personal attorney to Trump outside counsel, not part of the regime, doing a presser at the National Press Club today, and he's just reaming Comey a new one right now. I just had a chance to listen to a little bit of it. And we'll have samples of it maybe before the end of the program, certainly tomorrow. Hey, here's an interesting thing. I want to know if you people think that this is relevant. This is a story from DCWhispers.com. And here's the question. What do Angela Merkel, the leader of Germany, Emmanuel Macron, the new leader of France, Paolo Gentiloni of Italy, Theresa May in the UK, Mark Rutte of Holland, Stefan Löfven of Sweden, Nicola Sturgeon of Scotland, and Jean-Claude Juncker, the European Commissioner. What do they all have in common? Well, I don't think all of them hate Trump. I mean, Theresa may not hate, she might just dislike. But no, it's not that. And it's not that they're all socialists, and it's not that they're all Europeans. What do they... You'll never get this. And if I could, it would take a lot of time. I'll just tell you. These leaders, Merkel, Macron, the leaders of Germany, France, Italy, Great Britain, Holland, Sweden, Scotland, European Commission leader, none of them have children. Not a single one of them has children. I saw that, and I made sure. I looked it up. What else do they all have in common? They are all giving their countries over to illegal immigrants and refugees, primarily Muslims. The question, does the fact they have no children relate to their immigration policy? Put another way, if they had children and grandchildren, would they have the same open border immigration policies that they do? None of them have children. None of them have grandchildren. As they say here at DCWhispers.com, Europe's being led into oblivion by childless masters. So the question is, does having children or grandchildren change the way you view the world? Does it change the way you view your country in the future? Does not having a familial legacy make you less concerned about your country's individuality? Well, now, I can blow holes to this theory personally. I don't have kids. I have nieces and nephews, and I don't have kids. And I care everything about what happens in my country. It has not made me lackadaisical, but somebody, I guess, thinks that it could be relevant. That not having kids and running a country could make you more inclined to not be vigilant in leaving a legacy for your country as you found it. And I can do a counter. You know, Barack and Michelle have 2 kids, and he's hell-bent on transforming this country like Europe has transformed its countries. So, just wanted to throw that out there. Here's Neil in Matthews, North Carolina, as we head back to phones. Great to have you. Welcome to EIB Network.
Thanks for taking my call, Rush.
Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, I watched the entire hearing with Comey today, and every senator praised him before they talked to him on his honorable service, his principled service.
I saw that. And gagged me.
Those accolades came into question when several of the senators asked Comey why, if he believed Trump was directing him to drop the Flynn investigation, didn't he immediately tell someone in the Justice Department or the Attorney General? And his response was amazing. One specific response, Comey said that maybe he was too weak. And another response, he specifically said, maybe his response was just cowardly.
He said that, and he said it was weak. I may have been cowardly. I may not have had courage, but there's something else he said. Do you know what it is?
No.
He said in one instance he was afraid because it might tamper with the investigation. And I said, how in the world? You've got evidence here that you think the guy's trying to tamper with the investigation. You don't tell anybody because it could tamper with the investigation. It was senseless. I'm so senseless I may not have heard him right. But your review is exactly on point. He's exactly right. He admitted to all those things.
Well, the problem I have with Comey is that he's obviously not a man of principles, and if you try to stack him up with, say, the United States Marines, they're being asked to charge a hill, and half of the platoon says they're feeling a little weak and cowardly. I think we're in bad shape.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. I'll tell you this. You know, there is a Washington legal community, and the people in this community are judges, they are lawyers, legislators, some of their former prosecutors, and honestly, folks, to a man and woman, they say that Comey blows everybody away on integrity. They say Comey blows everybody away when it comes to integrity and, what else? Integrity, character. Just like your senators, you observed before they started questioning, they praised Comey's humanity and existence. Thank you for coming. We are so graced by your presence today, Director Comey. We feel so fortunate to be breathing your CO2. We are just the luckiest people in the world. There are people who write about him that way before they rip into it. He does have that reputation, and I'm certain that he has spent a lot of time cultivating it too. And it has worked. And he's living off of it right now. Big time. Wow, Trump's lawyer has accused Comey of lying on two big things. He said that Trump never told Comey to let the Flynn thing go. And he said that Trump never pressured Comey on anything. And one more, which we'll get to here in just a second. Here's a soundbite. This is Mark Kasowitz, who is the outside counsel for Trump. This is from a presser he just concluded at the National Press Club.
Although Mr. Comey testified that he only leaked the memos in response to a tweet, the public record reveals that the New York Times was quoting from those memos the day before the referenced tweet, which belies Mr. Comey's excuse for this unauthorized disclosure of privileged information and appears to be entirely retaliatory. We will leave it to the appropriate authorities to determine whether these leaks should be investigated along with all the others that are being investigated.
Now, what this is about, Comey said that he decided to release his memos after Trump had, in response to a Trump tweet. And Comey thought he needed to protect himself. But what the lawyer here is saying is the public record reveals the New York Times was quoting from Comey's memos before Trump tweeted anything, after Comey said the tweet was why he released the memos. The lawyer also said that Trump never said to Comey, let Flynn go, let the Flynn thing go, let go of it, turn it loose. And he never once pressured Comey. He has come out both barrels and has accused Comey of lying specifically, in addition to accusing him of becoming a leaker. Comey today also blew up a New York Times story about the Trump campaign having repeated contact with the Russians. What Comey said today is, in the main, it was not true. He was talking about a February 14th New York Times story that was titled, Trump Campaign Aides Had Repeated Contacts with Russia. And then the link to the Times story is here. And they quote various sources saying that Trump's people were talking with the Red. And Comey blew that up today. He said, no, it wasn't happening. Comey admitted that Trump was never a target today, 3 times. The first 5 minutes of Comey's testimony today should have ended all of this. But it won't. And I sadly have to wrap it up here. We'll be back in just a second. Okay, I've got this story that I didn't get a chance to get to today about infrastructure and the private sector helping out. You know what the story is about? About the evolving nature of capitalism. And it's a fascinating piece. And I'm going to put it at the top of the stack for stuff tomorrow. We'll get to that. It's open line Friday tomorrow. And there's going to be all kinds of crap from the rest of this stuff yesterday, so we'll be here loaded tomorrow.